Good morning, Central Texas. Welcome to Community Connections. I'm Phyllis, your host for this morning, and we're going to have a good show. We're going to have a good discussion. We're going to have a deep-hearted discussion. We know that this is Martin Luther King Day's birthday weekend, and you know the topic will be of something that he said. And for those of you who've asked me, no, I will never do I have a dream speech, because that is a speech that makes everybody comfortable, and that's not what he was always about. So for those who asked me last night, no, I'm not doing it. So anyway, that's it. But what I want to talk about first, before I introduce my guest, and you know what? This is the first guest. He has the honor of being the first guest that I never met. I never met my guest before today, which is really kind of different for me. Doesn't throw me any, but it's kind of different, you know. But this is 2021, and I need to do things differently. But what I want to say is this. There's been a email, social media, inbox, text. It's been a message, and this message has said that it comes from the NAACP, and it's saying that white supremacists are going to start taking black men and killing them. Number one, it's not true. The NAACP did not ever send that message out, and it would never come from the NAACP. Second question is, how do I know? Well, amongst the many things that I do, I am the state education chair for Texas State NAACP, which means I most likely would know. If that did come from NAACP, it would be our national chair, which is Derek Johnson. And when he sends out a message, the emblem is on the message, his picture's on there, and all of his information at the bottom. So it didn't come from them. Our state president is Gary Bledsoe. If he sends out an email, same thing. So it did not come. It's not true. Please quit sharing it. Yesterday I got it 10 times. And each time I'm steadily saying the same thing over and over again. So when you get it, delete it. We would never say that. NAACP wouldn't say that without an explanation, the whole 9 yards. And you should know, if it was true, I would have been blasting it all over everywhere. But I haven't. I've kind of shut it down as much as I could. So like I said, it's not true. Don't believe it. Why did they do it? Easy. You believe what the NAACP is going to say. Everybody does. So you would have believed it had it been true, but it's not true. So like I said, please delete it. Don't send it to me again. And I don't care who told you. This lady told me that the police officer told her. I don't care. He lying too. Because it never happened. So let's delete it and not talk about it anymore. Okay, on to my topic. First of all, my guest, his name is Troy Barber. How you doing this morning?
Good morning. I am happy and blessed to be here.
Okay, well, are you ready?
Yes, ma'am, I sure am.
Okay, now he claimed he ready.
Hey.
He doesn't know me.
Well, I've seen you all over the place, so I feel like I know you. I just don't know you, but hey, at the end of this show, I guess I will get to know you.
Oh, yeah, I heard that, right? Okay. Today, we're going to talk about something that Martin Luther King said, because it needs to be talked about. You know, we hear, like I said, I have a dream. That's what we hear. That's all we hear. We know about this dream that he had, and we need to remember it was his dream, not ours. I'm not knocking it down, but it was his dream. And at sometime or another, he realized that, it's not going the way he thought it would. So he had a speech. He talked about it with Harry Belafonte, and he also made the speech, but he never made it in front of a public crowd, you know, everybody like he normally did. He didn't. But I felt that I'm integrating my people into a burning house, which is ouch. But that's what we're going to talk about this morning. Myself and Troy, we're going to talk about it, and because it needs to be brought up, it needs to be said. We need to understand where he was coming from and what time in the era that he was in when he made that decision and that talk. No, it wasn't a negative, because after he made that, he did say what we're supposed to do, what he expects of us to do about this burning house, and we'll talk about that. So, Troy, what did you think about the topic?
Oh, well, first, I was probably more perplexed than Harry Belafonte was when he told him that. Because Harry Belafonte said, hey, I was thrown back. And reading this topic, I was kind of thrown back as well, because all I could concentrate on was the integration in the burning house and trying to figure out what exactly he meant by this burning house. I understand the integration part, but the burning house part was kind of just perplexed for me. And I just kind of sat back and go, burning house, what does the burning house represent? And the first thing I could think about was death.
When I asked you to do this, what did you think? other than I lost my mind?
Well, I just thought I need to basically educate myself on this particular speech because I never heard of it. You know, like you said, we always hear about the I Have a Dream speech and those things like that, but we never hear about the other speeches that he had done in his lifetime.
Right.
So, like I said, the burning building was something I had to grasp in my mind. What did he really mean by that? And by that, I had to do a little research. And then, like I said, the burning building represents death and change and engulfed in flames. And I'm, okay, how do we tie those two together? You know, and so for me, the burning building was an integration what constitute as what we lost. When you have a burning building, it's you lose something. You lose some you lose history, you lose important papers, you lose pictures. So what did he mean by us integrating that we had to lose something? And thus, for me, integration was great, but that also means that we lost in our community as well. Because when you strive to do something, you're going to lose something as well. Sometimes you gain and lose at the same time. And that loss was the black community, that village, that sense of pride that we had, or the looking after each other. Because before the integration, what did we have? We had our own community.
Right.
We had our own everything. So when we integrated, we stopped. The black community still existed, but the future of the black community moved out. Because now we didn't have to live on the east side of Austin or the south side of Dallas or the south side of Midland where I'm from. We didn't have to live over there anymore. We could go to the west side, the north side, or the east side. We could live anywhere. So thus, the black community still existed, but the future of the black community moved out. So it gotten weaker, and we got away from that village mentality. Because now we're able to go live where we want. We're able to go shop over here, and thus our businesses and things that we had to have during our segregation period, we don't hardly have anymore. So that represents the burning building for me, the loss of what we had during the integration period.
So what do you think about also during this time of that he made the speech, we were going through a bunch of things all at once that we all didn't know how to handle. We as the people, we couldn't grasp all of that as fast because we had Martin Luther King. We also had Malcolm X. So at the same time that Martin Luther King did this, Malcolm X had a speech too about the houseboy and the field boy. Mm-hmm. So that was going on. We also had the movement of the Black Panthers forming and coming along. So not only was Martin Luther King marching for peace, justice, and all that, we also had these other groups. They weren't marching against him. They were all marching for the same cause. They just did it a different ways.
Right.
So do you think that him watching all of this and us losing this battle that he wanted had a matter of play into this speech?
I think it did because as you look at it, you had, like you said, different groups marching and fighting the same fight, just different ways of doing it. Of course, you know, there's Malcolm X by any means necessary, and then things like that. And so we had different philosophies out there of how to go about doing it. And then you had, you know, some African Americans, some black people tired of the water hose and the dogs and saying, hey, you know, let's just pick up some arms and do it this way because we're losing on this front. Not only are we losing lives, but we're losing our self-respect at the same time. And so, you know, the Black Panthers was that strong, militant-looking group, and a lot of black people wanted to be part of that because they were talking about, hey, we're not going to take this.
Right.
Much like the young people today when they're saying, we're not our ancestors. That's their slogan. And they're saying pretty much the same thing, but, you know, some armed, some without arms. So he had to make the speech because he was looking at it and probably second-guessing himself and going, am I doing the right thing? Thus, the speech of, you know, for the fear of leading our people into the burning building. Mm-hmm. And so I think at the time he was deeply disturbed by what he saw going on. But of course, he still continued to fight the fight, even though we had all these different black groups out here getting to the same point. But like you said, trying to figure out what was the best way of doing it.
Because also parts of what he saw and experienced, and some of us have learned and did not learn, is while he was marching, and while Malcolm X was marching, and while the Black Panthers were doing what they're doing, and at the same time, James Brown changed our color. He came out with the song, "Say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud."
Oh, yes.
And we became black. Ooh, we went from Negroes to being black at that time.
We've changed our ethnicity so many times. That,
but actuality, we never have. The only name that we actually called ourselves was black.
Well, black. Well,
yeah, we never called ourselves Negroes.
Well,
yeah, they did.
Society, I guess, that went from Negroes, niggas to this, to that, to this, to that, and so now we're African Americans, and so, but hopefully we'll just.
We don't know where we're going to be.
Yeah, well, we're going to go with that.
I'll just stick with my birth certificate.
Exactly.
But along with that, with Martin Luther King doing what he was doing, what failed to happen was the gatekeeper. And what I mean by the gatekeeper is this. When Martin Luther King was marching this way, when everybody was marching forward, we didn't have a gatekeeper to the back. We didn't have a gatekeeper to the people who weren't going to do it. We didn't fight those who weren't going to fight. We didn't say, you're stupid or whatever. We didn't say anything to them. Mm-hmm. We just left them. But actually, we just left them. That was the problem. When we left them drugs, that's how the drugs got in. That's when the drugs came in, and we came back to our neighborhoods going, what the world happened? That's because we didn't leave a gatekeeper. And Martin Luther King had to know the same thing. So I think that all those things together formed him to being not fed up. Well, yeah, fed up, but not fed up to stop.
Right.
Fed up with realizing either he needed to change what he was doing, fix his way of thinking, but it threw him into a deep thinking point of life where sometimes we find all of ourselves in this point of what the world am I doing? Mm-hmm. But I think that all that coming together helped him go, am I sending my people to the wrong direction or am I just, I don't know. And I'm glad that he had Harry Belafonte there to help him.
Right.
Because had he had some other people, we don't know what would have happened.
And that's when Harry Belafonte asked him, well, what are we going to do? And he said, we're just going to be firemen. We have to keep fighting this fight and moving in the same direction. And that's, I have a dream speech. Right. Keep hoping that through our fights and our struggles that half or all of what I'm saying will come to fruition.
So now we are here today. And we, as a people, we've done two things. Yes, we're still I think we're still integrated into this burning house.
Oh, yeah.
We're still in this burning house. We have not successfully got the fire and put it out. We've put some of it out. But I think that we should have stayed the way we were. Because the way we were, we didn't have all of our rights. I think we could have fought them without moving. Because what our problem began is when we started moving. We left our neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. And we moved to, quote unquote, a better neighborhood. Mm-hmm. But what we let into that neighborhood was somebody who didn't look like us to be able to change us. Because they changed the people who we left behind. Mm-hmm. So we left the people behind in the burning house, I would say. We left them in the burning house because we didn't teach them to come on with us. We didn't say, hey, listen, this is what you need to do. We just said bye.
Bye.
we said bye, and we left and kept going. So I think even with today, some of us are still in the burning house, and we haven't went back and put the fire out.
Right. I think that what you're saying is very true. You go, like where I'm from, you go to the south side where our roots are. Mm-hmm. It's the same, and then it's not the same because the roots stayed there. But like I said, everybody else has dispersed. Mm-hmm. And so we've left our knowledge, our wisdom, and everything else there on the south side because that's where it started. And we thought that, okay, now I can go live over here and it's going to be better. But actuality, it's not better. It's not better because we're still fighting the same fight in this burning house. We're still fighting racism. We're still fighting police brutality. We're still fighting some of those same fights that Martin Luther King was fighting back in the 60s. I find myself down at HT in Austin marching and taking part of groups. And I'm looking, I was like, man, they did this back in the 60s. Why are we still doing this? Why are we still fighting discrimination on our jobs? Why are we still fighting the same things? So technically, we are still in the burning building. Yes, the flames have disseminated a little bit, but they're still flames. Because, like you said, we could have still fought this fight on the south side because it hadn't, just because we moved to the north side or the east side, the fight hasn't gotten any better. Yes, we've taken 2 or 3 steps forward, but we've also stood still in some areas. So today, when you look at it, yes, there are some things that we can do that our parents, our forefathers couldn't do. But there's also some things that they couldn't do. We still have to be leery of. Right. When you take today's world and society, you can take not our self-respect, but how other people view us is one thing that flame will never go out. Right. I believe that's part of the burning building that never will go out, because no matter what, you want to give them something, blame the dark-skinned man. Just like last week what happened. You wouldn't believe that you are still seeing other people trying to blame Antifa and Black Lives Matter for that. Right. And you're like, we weren't nowhere around. But you have to blame somebody. And the quickest way to get the attention off of you to put it on somebody else is blame the dark-skinned man or woman. So that's part of some of this burning building that we will never, ever, ever be able to put out. Yeah, even with the past of Michelle and Barack, you think that, okay, maybe a little bit, but then we heard Barack Obama say because of his presidency is why this outgoing president was able to thrive and do the things he do, because the fear in that type of group and setting and those people just intensified when he was president. So the way to balance that out was to elect somebody like the outgoing person.
The village idiot.
Yeah.
I didn't call his name. I just said the village idiot.
Yeah, so.
In every village, there's an idiot.
Yes.
He happened to be it. Okay, now y'all going to hear my age,
Mine too.
But, oh boy. First of all, I was 10 years old when I did my first protest. Did I know what I was doing? Yes. I had a mother and father who believed in fighting, so I was protesting, holding up signs. I knew what the sign said. I understood what the sign said, but it had nothing to do with me because I was 10. But anyway, I started those. So I watch our young people today, and the sad thing about it is we put them in the same building, because when I watch them, I always go to wherever they do. I go because, one, I'm older than them, and I should go, because there's things that I have that they don't have, and it's because they haven't lived long enough, and they didn't live when I did. Their growing up years weren't the 70s. Their education years, I'll say, of what you learned in the 70s that came from the 60s, they didn't have that. They didn't have that, so they don't know it. So it's our job to go back and say, don't do it that way. This is how you should do it. It's our job to do that, but we're not doing it. We're sitting back, driving our cars home from work, and we're sitting there, and we have the nerve to turn on the television and say, look at those children. We do that today, and that's wrong. So we've placed them in a burning building. And you know what we said? We don't have a fire hose. We did. We're saying that today. I don't have any fire hose, so I'm not going to put your fire out. You just got to survive the wherever you did. But we didn't do that. We had people educating us and telling us how to march and what to do. I mean, I remember the day my mother came home from work, and I had an afro. When she left that morning, I didn't have one. She came home, I had an afro. I had a denim jacket. Angela Davis had a denim jacket that said Black Power, Kill a White Person. So what did my jacket say? Same thing. I'm walking around the house with the jacket on. Needless to say, you don't know my parents. But anyway, they had no problem. My mother and father had no problems with what my jacket said. They didn't. They did not. They had no problems with it. They just told me I couldn't wear it to school. Did I wear it to school? Of course I did. Anyway, that was another story. But I grew up in those times where I knew I went to every Black Panther meeting. I was not old enough to be one, but they told me they told us we could sit in the back and learn. So we did. We couldn't protest with them, but we could hand out the flyers because we weren't old enough. But I was part of that generation, and I'm glad I was, because I learned how to fight. Not with my fists. I learned to fight with my head. I learned to fight with my mouth. I learned to fight with education. So I dove into my history, nobody else's history. But having an African father, I had no choice but to learn my history and nobody else's history. But I did that. And so what we now, those of us who are, I'll say, 50 and up, our job is to practice Sankofa, which is go back and fetch, go back and reach. So we need to take the young people out of the burning building, and we need to bring them up, because they can't grow if we don't go back. They'll stay in that building, and they're gonna die in that building because we didn't go back. So I think that all that ties into the burning building that Martin Luther King was afraid of. Yes, he was afraid of it because he talked about it. And when you talk about something to other people, now when you talk to yourself, it's kind of halfway. But when you talk about it to other people, you are now concerned about it, because it went from just you and you conversation to, hey, listen, let's talk about this. That's when it becomes real. It's real at that point because, like I said, you shared it. And you shared it with somebody that you knew you could share it with. That would either say, you got to be crazy today, or wait a minute, hold up, where is this coming from?
Yeah.
So I think that part of the speech, actually all of it, was the fact that he was unsure as to where he was leading us is where we needed to go. So what do you think?
I think that's true. I think that, when you are complex about something, of course, you're wondering, your self-doubt. It's like, okay, am I doing the right thing? Because integration had a price. We paid a price for trying to gain this integration. And that we've all seen it, the films with the dogs in the water hose and Selman Bridge where people get beat up just because they were trying to march. We've all seen that. So we paid a price for that as a people. And you go, okay, is this the right way to do it? Because you have a lot of, like you said, what we talked about earlier, you have other groups are saying, hey, maybe this is a better way. But irregardless, he stuck to what he believed was the right way to do it, and believed and said, hey, we're going to do it this way regardless of what everybody else is saying. And I know we talked about the gatekeeper and all that things, but this is what we're going to do. And I know we're going to pay a price for it, because paying a price is going to come to fruition one day, and we're going to look back on it and say, okay, that was the right way to do things. But you're right about today's young people or middle-aged people and not having that guidance and things, and they're still in that burning building. And because I'm in the education field, I see it on that side of it, where I find myself taking these kids trying to take them out of the burning building and put them into a village. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to do because they have no idea about the village. They have no idea about older people pulling them aside and say, hey, no, that's not how we act, or that's not how we do things, or this is the way you're supposed to do that, and this is the way you're supposed to act, because they have no idea about the struggle. Right. All they see is today. And it's hard to get them to understand that this is important, and this is what you're supposed to be, and this is how you're supposed to act. And like I said, me being working at Central Texas College and having the job I have, I find myself pulling the young students in and saying, hey, do you not realize, when I realize that they're blowing a 2-year free education, mm-hmm. that there was somebody in your family that could not read and write. Mm-hmm. It was illegal to teach us how to read and write. And then you come here, have an opportunity, and this doesn't mean anything to you. And then they wonder why I get so frustrated at them, because I look at them and I can remember, because my grandmother couldn't read or write, because she grew up in the early 1900s and they had to work and she couldn't go to school. Right. And then I can see them just blowing a 2-year free education. And again, like I said, they wonder why I'm on them so much, or get mad at the effort that they're giving. And because they don't understand that this was something once that we as black people couldn't do. Right. Couldn't do, read or write, let alone getting, just the opportunity to get a free education. And so it is hard to pull some young people out of this burning building because they're comfortable. That's all they know. That's all they know.
But also, you're right, that's all they know. But then it still goes back to those of us who know better.
Right.
I'll say me because I do, and I don't see many of me's out there. But I stay up with what they're doing, because they're not our tomorrow, they're our today.
Today.
They're living.
Definitely.
And if we don't raise them right, they're going to turn out wrong. And we will be suffering that when we get as we get older, we're going to suffer the wrath of what we let them do and not mm-hmm. guide them. But when I have learned, when they have meetings, and they don't see any of us there, the first question the young men will ask is, where's the older guys? You know, and if I'm there, I'm going to look at them like I'm not a man, so I don't know where they're at. I can blast them for you, though. I can do that. I can blast them for you, but I don't know where they are. There are no men there, and there are no women there sitting there to say, you sit there, but you might say, oh, so what do you want to do? So where you want to go? No. We need to listen first and see where we fit in there. Mm-hmm. When they were talking about doing a march a couple of years ago, it was 2 years ago they did it, and they were talking about what they were doing, and I'm sitting there listening. You know, I sit in the back because I hate sitting in the front because I don't know. You don't learn nothing sitting in the front. You learn more in the back. But anyway.
Right. You're watching everybody in the front and seeing their body language and what they're talking about. Now you know how to respond to all that.
Yeah. So I'm listening to them and they're what we got going. And this one young man, he goes, Miss Phyllis. I'm like, uh-oh. You know, I said, yes. What did we miss? I said, what did you miss? What are you talking about? And what you're planning? What did you miss? I said, actually, you've only missed one thing. You know, they looked at me. We missed one thing? Yes. They said, what? You're having your march? Yes. I said, and the police department is going to be there? Yes. I said, but you need somebody that's driving to also follow the march. This is why. I said, because if something happens, the police won't say you all allowed it to happen. You can say, hey, I called the police over because I was driving part of the march to make sure everything stayed okay. Mm-hmm. You know, and they looked at me. I said, but I'm not saying you have to have that person. I'm just saying when I was growing up, we had that person. Mm-hmm. You know, so they need us to do those things. Right. Because once they realize that we're listening, that we didn't say, because some of the things they wanted to do, I disagreed with. But it didn't sound bad. I just disagreed. Mm-hmm. So I realized it wasn't that they were negative. It was just my own disagreement. And they weren't going to burn up in this burning building because they did it. It was just a me thing. So I shut up. I said, word. But when they said what's missing, I did say that was missing. But that's all they ask for now. And we don't give it. Some of us will say we don't have time. Well, I look at it. I look at what I do, and I'm like, if I got time, y'all do. Mm-hmm. I'm like, you know, because, listen, I work with little short 4-year-old special needs kids. If I could do something at the end of the day, anybody can. Mm-hmm. Because, as you know, I spend my day chasing the kids down the hall, splitting tables, crawling on the floor, and getting cursed out and can't say nothing about it. But we need to go back and take time because we put them in the burning building. We put them in there.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And we're letting them roast, and we're sitting back
right because we're too busy thinking that the things that we grew up under, the umbrella we grew up under, we no longer need. Mm-hmm. And so we put them in this burning building and say, okay, fend for yourself, because now we're our mentality is totally different as not the 50 and up,
right?
But it has changed a little bit with that group as well. But now the parents' mentality is different for the kids because our parents' mentality was different when they were raising us, same as their parents' mentality of how we were supposed to act and what we were supposed to do was different. Right. So now it's the, you know, that generation of Xboxes and all this and let's be friends and you know, let's get along and all of that. That's that generation of parents raising these kids now. So they, like I said, their umbrella is totally different than ours was. So like I said again, it's hard, but they need, and even though I know when I become that person to them, they don't like it at that point because it goes against everything they were probably ever taught. But they do, when they come back and they talk to me about some of the things that I've tried to get them to understand, now they understand that, hey, this is why I did what I did. But because they're not used to that, their mentality or the way their perception of it at that moment was, oh, I don't want to hear that. You know, why are you so mean? Why are you talking to us like that? Why are you doing this? And why are you doing that? Right. You act like you don't care. But when you come back and you speaking to me and I'm looking at you like, I tried to tell you, you know, but your situation and your mentality today is totally different. Yeah, of course, we had to learn some things on our own as well, you know, but I tell them I wish I had someone to tell me about the college and the schools and the education and stuff like that when I was younger. And because I didn't, and there's a reason why I sit in this chair across from you trying to get you to understand that, hey, this is the right way to do it. Right. But, you know, they want to stay in that until they find out themselves. And like I said, I'm sure that we didn't pay attention to everything our parents told us or someone else. But it seems to be when it comes from someone else, sometimes they'll listen and sometimes they won't. But again, it's our job to be the firemen, regardless of what the situation is, and to keep their water pumping to try to put out as many fires as we can, so they will still have it easier than we have.
True, very true. So we have a lot of work to do.
Oh yeah, definitely, and we cannot stop fighting that fires, because if we do, then the next generation kids will just be lost. And then we'll sit back and say, well, look how they acting. Why are they dancing on tables like in Dallas? Or why did they twerking on TV? Why are they doing this? Because nobody took the time out to teach them. And say, hey, no, because now some of the parents got this mentality where it's about being friends and about getting along and not hurting their feelings and all this and all that. I wish I wouldn't worry about my father, hurting my feelings when I was growing up, or my mother, because they surely did and didn't care one way or another what I thought about it, So, it's just, I guess it's just a different mentality, different parents these days in different situations, but that doesn't mean that us that old enough to know better should stop fighting the fight.
And like I said, we do need to, like you said, we do need to go back and educate. We need to go back and pull our sleeves up and get back to work. And we do need to transfer. Some of the knowledge that we grew up with can be transferred, and some can't. Some can't. I know the way I grew up. No, certain things that my parents taught me, exactly. I would be dead if I tried to do it now.
Yes.
Because like I said, I don't know if you realize how hard it is, but it's not easy growing up with an African father. Your life it's not rough. It's not mistreated or anything like that. You grow up with a different mindset that sometimes you just be quiet. You don't say anything about it. But I do remember one thing my father made me do, and my poor daughters had to go through the same trouble, is I had to learn to debate when I was younger. And what I mean by debate, my father was very adamant on everything I did, every place I went. It had to be about us. If it was about someone else, I could not go. And he told me why I couldn't go, but I wasn't going. Well, a couple of times there were things happening that I wanted to go, right? And I would go ask him, since the head of the house was dead, I would go ask him, can I go somewhere? And I would be, my hands behind my back, sweating. I know he's going to just murder me. I'm waiting. But he would go, why should I let you go? What? Why should I let you go? For real? Because I wanted to say so bad because I asked. Then I realized, no, that wasn't going to work if I said that. So I went back in my bedroom, and I thought about why I needed to go. And I went back. I said, okay, this is why I need to go. Well, he would sit up, and like he was a teacher or something, and he would actually listen to me debate with him on why I needed to go, on the purpose of why I needed to go. And I had to listen to him, but he listened to me. But a lot of times I end up going where I needed to go. But that's because he taught me how to do that. He taught me how to stand on my own for what I believed in that I needed to go do. I thought that was torture when I was growing up. I later learned that it wasn't. I later learned that I now know how to fight for what I want and what I believe in, and I know how to go back and get it in my head where I need to present it. So I didn't realize then what he was teaching me. Like I said, I thought he was a mean African man that wanted me to only deal with people who look like me. But I didn't know that he was actually teaching me a lesson to which I taught to my daughters. My oldest daughter, I shouldn't have taught her that. But anyway, but I did. But that's also a lesson to teach our young people. Because they'll ask for something and you go, why? And they go, because I said so. No. Because it's the right thing for today. What about tomorrow? So we need to, some of our lessons that we learned, we need to transfer over.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Because if we're not, like I said, we're watching them today, we're watching them in the house that's burning. And we're sitting back with a comfort zone. And no one told us to be comfortable. No one ever told us to sit back and be comfortable. But we assume that this is a place we're supposed to be comfortable at. So I think we need to remember the burning house. We have the same flyer, so
yeah, definitely.
we do know about this.
Oh yeah, definitely. I like I said, I don't see a lot of stuff transferring, but that doesn't mean when you have the opportunity. I call it a teachable moment. That we should always take that moment to teach, because if we don't teach them, who's going to teach them? Because nobody cares about our own except our own, and that's what we lost in this integration. That now, because we went from having our own to now sharing theirs, and we lost who we were. Even growing up in Midland, when they closed Carver High School, just like they did every black school in America, because they wanted us to go to their school. They didn't bus them to our school. They closed our school. Closed that school. So now I'm a sports person. So I learned that in Midland, like I said, what we lost was the history of the school and that community school. Who knew that Carver was the first school to win state championships in sports?
Oh, wow.
Now, see, we thought it was Midland High and baseball and Lee High School and three state championships and all that. No. Before they closed this school, Carver was the first school in Midland to win state championships in basketball and football. But we didn't know that.
Hidden history.
Hidden history, because when they closed the school, we lost that history. We lost that identity in Midland. And then some reason someone brought it up years ago. And so now they're trying to honor Carver's state championships in football this past season. But when I was growing up, I never knew. Drove by the school 100 times.
Oh, wow.
100 times, but never knew the history of that school. And like I said, that was part of that burning building and integration, where now we're going to close your school down, make it a center, but never tell you the history of that. And I'm sure if you do the investigation or you inquire about the black schools that they've closed in every city, because every city pretty much had a black high school, closed it down. You don't know the history of that school. You don't know how it started, what was started, the bands, none of that, because with closing down that school, they closed down the history. And that's the second time that we lost history, because the first time when they brought us over here, we lost that history. Now, in integration, we lost another part of history. So we've lost twice already.
That's right.
So now, what are we doing? And when we see the young kids, we have the nerve to say, like you said before, look at how they act. Look at how they're doing. But whose fault is that?
Right.
Whose fault is that? They don't come out acting that way. They don't come out acting a certain way. It's up to us, again, like you said, to try to douse the fires and put out these burning buildings that we've put them in. Because now they're in the same burning building, but they're in a different burning building. Yeah. And it's because we haven't taught them how to fight these fires. We haven't taught them that they don't know the struggle, and we're not trying to introduce it to them. True. Some of us are not. Some of us are. But we're just going along to get along. And like I said, it's a different mentality these days. And we have to save these kids, because they are now in our future. Not, they are our now, because that's what we're supposed to do. Like you talked about ago, I have my ring here. On one side, it says, each one teach one. And it says duty on it, because that reminds me of the African proverb that we are bound by duty to teach these kids what we know. Right. But we're not doing that. We're just letting them fend on their own. And that's the mistake that we're making.
And the other part, I say, it's only in Killeen. Well, not only in Killeen, but it's in Killeen. The parts when you talk about segregation of schools and busing. I grew up in Detroit. We didn't do busing. So the whole history, we know the history of busing because we read it.
Right.
But we never knew what it was. We're like, really sending kids. Stuff like, they're really sending kids. Well, what? Really? No. So we didn't know that. But the unique thing is, if me and you were together speaking to a bunch of kids, we would give them more education, because you would talk about what you knew of being bused to another school. And I would say, no, we still stayed at ours. Well, we both know why each area did it. We were from two different worlds. Right. Because you're Texas, I'm Michigan. We're two different worlds. Yes. we're way two different worlds with a history that's wow. But, not wow as far as bad, but we have vast history of two different places, but together could teach a lot of kids a lot of things. Because there are things that I'll say, we did more walkouts than I think in North, we did more walkout sit-ins than anybody else did. We did it because that's who we were. Right. I remember, I'm telling my age again, we couldn't wear pants to school. Girls couldn't. We could not. Including females. Only female that could wear pants to school was a gym teacher. They're the only ones, and that's because they taught PE. But I remember one year I was in middle school. We didn't call it middle school. It was junior high school. But anyway, we were in middle school, and we were all the girls were supposed to walk out of school at 1 o'clock, because the college kids were with the legislators fighting for us to wear pants to school. So we were supposed to all walk out. The whole state of Michigan, all the girls were supposed to walk out 1 o'clock. So 12:45, we packed our stuff. unbeknownst to us, the teacher was packing her stuff too. We thought she was crazy because we don't know where she was going. But then she gave us a little call. If you weren't going to go to walk out, you had to go to the gym and sit. And we're still trying to figure out what she packing for. But she ended up walking out with us. We walked out. We took all of our stuff with us because the plan was if they didn't vote yes, we wasn't going back into school. Were we scared? Yes. We walking out of school. But you know what? At 1 o'clock we walked out and we stayed out. We stayed out there to 2:30. I remember that. Because at 2:30 they voted that we could wear pants to school. And the plan the next day was to wear pants to school.
To wear pants.
If you couldn't have any pants on the next day at school, we told you don't come to school. We did. We don't come to school. Because we had to do what we fought for. So the next day, we all wore pants to school. In fact, I think the rest of the week we wore pants to school. Just on purpose. But we fought that fight. And were we scared? Yes, because we were walking out of school. We were walking out. And, you walk out of school, you're suspended. Everything,
Yeah, definitely.
But we had to do that. But if I put that into today, these kids wouldn't do it.
No. They wouldn't think it was important enough.
So we need to instill that in them that, it was big for what we wanted to wear pants. We demanded it. When we go home, but, we fought for that, and we did it peacefully, but we did it successfully. So our kids now, and I want to say, and they're kids, because if you're old enough to be my child, you're a kid, but we need to go back and instill in them and pull them out of this burning house, show them that we have the fire hose, and we need to not fix them, not repair them, but we need to educate them. We need to open their little heads and pour in what we know, because this burning building will be burning forever.
Right.
We'll die and the building's still burning.
Definitely. But I think the young kids have, if I can say that they have learned something by watching, let's just say Colin Kaepernick, to understand that there are things in this world that you have to find important enough to willing to lose your job, to willing to lose the way of life to make a point. And at that time, those in that industry, NFL and all those, didn't pay attention to him. Didn't pay attention. Oh, we're going to blackball you because this is not good for the league. What happened a year later? George Floyd. So now they find themselves apologizing, right. But he's not back in the league. But that's a different story.
Yeah.
But they have to understand that sometimes you have to fight that good fight. John Lewis said that good trouble, and stand on it, no matter what happens, because there are fights and out here that are worth fighting, because it's going to make a difference in your life and those come after you. And that's something, again, they know nothing about, because that's what all the marching and the water hose and the dogs and Selma Bridge and all that was about. But they've never had to experience that. And they don't even know if the parents have ever even talked to them about that.
Right.
Because our conversations with my aunts and my uncles were, you have to be twice as good, and you had this and that. And it was all geared toward being better, right, and understanding the struggle. And I can probably say that these parents, they or that have never had that conversation with the kids, so they don't know. Like you said, if you were trying to organize that tonight, you would probably get 10 people to walk out. That's it. And then that's not going to turn any heads. That's not going to make any noise. But only as a collective group can you understand that now, to get something accomplished, you've got to be on one accord as a group of young people or older people and everything. And we just witnessed that in Georgia. Just witness that. If you come together and fight one cause, like that sign says, that the hands that once picked cotton can now pick presidents, right, and now pick 2 senators. So that tells you, if you band together for one common cause, you can get some things done. Because now, not only did that happen, but now they're sweating, saying, we might not ever get Georgia back.
Right.
We may not ever get Arizona back, because that used to be red. Now this is blue, only because look what happened when people band together. And now they don't believe anymore that your vote don't count, because we used to told that forever and ever. Don't worry about it. Don't go vote, because it ain't going to count. No, it will count if everybody band together and do what they're supposed to do. And like I said, we just witnessed it. And now those people in D.C. probably going crazy.
Yes, they are.
Man, what happened?
They've lost their mind.
Well, yeah, because we had this on lock. And now they know, especially in Georgia, I'm just using that.
Yeah.
If it comes down to that Atlanta area, you can hang it up. If you're a Republican, you can hang that up, because that's what just happened. It came down to that Atlanta area, and what's mostly in Atlanta, let's be truthful.
Yes.
Black people.
Yes.
And they got out and voted droves and cars and walks and whatever we had to do, or they had to do,
Right.
to get it done. They got it done. So now Stacey Abrams and her crew have shown us a different light, that if you band together for one particular cause, you can make this happen. But if it's only a few of us, it's not going to happen, because they're not going to pay attention to that.
And not only that, not only that is, I'm going to come back up. We know of Martin Luther King. We know of Malcolm X. But what's never taught to us is that they were friends.
Oh, yes.
That's not taught to us, because if that's taught, then our kids will see a different light. But if they're taught that these two men were enemies, that's the light that someone else wants us to carry.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So we need to learn that I can dislike you all day long, but if there's a cause for us, I can dislike you after the cause is over with. But together, we're going to work together. People go, are they friends? Yeah, they're best friends. They hang out together. They're this, they're that. And actuality, when it's the end of the day, you go your way, I go mine, and we're fine. But since we think that those two men never got along, history goes down that way, so we're taught that. Mm-hmm. So our kids are taught that. If you ask kids right now today, did Malcolm X and Martin Luther King? No, they didn't like each other, because what you see is a picture of Malcolm X, as you said, saying by any means necessary, and you see in Martin Luther King marching for peace, and you go, no, they couldn't have been friends when they were. And our kids don't see that, and some of us don't promote that. But they need to learn. I don't have to like you to work with you.
Exactly.
I don't have to. As long as we're going for the same cause, that's all we're going to talk about, because we know our barrier is just there. So we're going to talk about this common cause, what's going to be done next week, next month, 2 days from now, who's going here, there. We're going to talk about that, but we don't have to like each other to do it. We need to go back and teach our young people that, because what they'll do is they'll have a march today, Group A. Group B, I can have mine bigger than yours. So I'm going to have my march next weekend. Well, mine can be bigger than both of y'all. So I'm going to have mine 2 weeks from now. And they don't realize we're solving nothing, but we're showing division.
Exactly.
That burning house will burn twice, because it's showing that, one, I can divide these people up, and people need to understand, if someone else sees the division, they're going to feed the division.
They always have. They always have. That's why we have really never been able to accomplish anything, because they've always been able to divide us.
Right.
They've always been able to divide us on things like that. And they know it if you let them congregate, if you let them. And that's how some of those laws came into slavery about us, more than one or two together, because they were so scared if we got together, we would devise a plan to escape or to kill them to gain our freedom. And so it's always been that rule of thumb: if we could divide you, if we can divide you, we can destroy you.
Right.
We cannot let you get together and come together. And like I said, if they would just learn, the groups would learn to get together and have one big massive march, they'd pay attention. They'd pay attention to 3,000 instead of 100 or 50. That is no threat. But if you got 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people marching for the same cause, now that's a threat. That's a threat.
Yep.
And so, like you said, truthfully, we need to learn to get along for the common good of one cause or two causes instead of being separate on the same fight. Because, yes, Martin Luther King and Malcolm X were friends, and they don't publicize that for just the same reason you said, because they want us to think that they were enemies, they didn't like each other, and that they were just on total opposite ends of the earth. Yes, their philosophies and their thinking was totally different, but they were friends.
Right.
They were definitely friends, and there's articles and pictures to prove it. So, like you said, that's something that we definitely have to teach the young kids, that, hey, or anyone, that you can get along just good enough to do what you need to do. And unfortunately, I see it in Killeen all the time, that some of the things that other organizations do, that, that people just don't want to support you because those reasons, or whatever reasons they have. Just think, if we would turn together on different issues in Killeen, how different some of this would look to these kids. But they see the division. They know they're not stupid.
Yeah,
and
they
so,
know it.
They look at it like that, and then they become that way. Well, I'm not going to support her because I don't like her. I don't like him because of that. But y'all doing the same thing. You're doing the same thing. And so that and other mentality of the stuff that we've been going to the house and the field and all that. So all that division as well. You know, so there's some deep-rooted issues when it comes to us working together. It always has been, basically because, well, let's just always have been in America, because that's how if you divide them, I can conquer them.
Yeah, and it's true.
So, and it's still to the day, because they still carry some of that mentality with us that, you know, for the slightest reason, I can dislike you, and now I'm trying to do my own thing together instead of getting with you and us working together.
That's true. We are our own enemies.
Exactly.
No one else has to be our enemy. We don't need it anymore. We're successfully about doing it ourselves, and we need to stop it. We were taught to stop it. We were taught to stop it. We were actually taught to come together. We were taught that, but there's a generations of blank, of just blank, just blank, just nothing happened. And I would say that the 50 and up generation, we were the first ones to go to school. We were the first ones to have better jobs. We were the first ones to move out into other neighborhoods. We were the first idiots. Mm-hmm. And I'm saying that, yes, I called us idiots. Mm-hmm. Because we did all the wrong things. We did go to school. We did do a little better. But we moved out. You know, used to be when my parents were growing up, well, I'll say my mother. My dad didn't grow up in the United States, so his is different. But she did grow up here. The doctor was in the same neighborhood that she lived in. You know, he didn't live in another part of Detroit. He lived where she did. She lived on the east side of Detroit, which is where most of us lived in Detroit. But the doctor was over there. He wasn't, you know, he was right there. So he didn't live anywhere else. He was African American, but he lived in a neighborhood. He didn't move out because he got better. He moved in a better house in the same area. Mm-hmm. You see, he didn't leave. He moved into a better house in the same area. He knew not to leave. But after that generation, we left. We left. And when we go back to visit, we're going, what the world happened? Who owns this store right now? None of us own it. Mm-hmm. Somebody who does not look like us own it. You go in there, you pick up something, you go, I'm not paying for that. Sheesh. But you're not going to pay for it. But the people we left behind, they have to.
They have to.
They have to. So we became, we were smart. We got educated, but we left. We moved into a neighborhood that didn't want us. We did. We moved someplace where they didn't want us. We moved into an area that wasn't the village. You were the village. Your house was the village. You were it. That was it. Mm-hmm. You know, we moved into places where her house was the house. So your mother's house might have been the house that we can all go to. Mm-hmm. We can all go to your house, mm-hmm. and that's all we going.
Kino night. Game night.
But we do need to go back and read what Martin Luther King talked about, the integration and the burning house. We need to go back and read that. We need to digest it, and then we need to step forward with it. This is a piece of information, or I'll say a talk we should have had years ago, probably. We should have, but It's never too late to do it. So at some point in 2021, I would like, and see, when I say something, I end up doing it. But anyway, I would like for us to get together and have a talk. And have a talk with all of us. And what I mean by all of us is from the 20-year-olds all the way up. We need to all sit down and just talk. No Indians. No chiefs. Nobody's in charge. Drop all your in chargeness at the door. Mm-hmm. You know, your business card that says you are the whatever. Forget all that.
No titles, nothing.
That's it. And we need to walk in as just people.
Just people.
Just that. And we need to have an open and honest, not conversation, a dialogue. Those two are different. Conversations are just conversation. Dialogue is totally different. Mm-hmm. Dialogue has meaning, and dialogues take you someplace. But we need to do that in 2021. If not, we're going to lose. See, 2020, we let it run away from us. We did. We let it go. Mm-hmm. The pandemic hit, and we lost our minds. And that's understandable. But we lost our minds, and we allowed this Breonna Taylor to get shot the way she did.
Right.
We allowed this police officer to put his hands in his pocket and murder somebody. the hands in the pocket meant a lot to me. I don't know what it meant to everybody else, but it meant a lot that you
Well,
can put your hands in your
not
pocket.
Martha. What did Malcolm X said that too in his movies? Get your hand out of my pocket, right? So that's probably what you think about once you see the hands in the pocket, because and it's like it's carefree in the world. I'm gonna just do this and nobody's gonna stop me.
Yeah. I know, because everybody said, well, I said no. The hands in the pocket drove me crazy.
Right.
I wanted to just leap through the TV and snatch him because get your hands out of your pocket. But I was calm. I was okay. But we lost 2020 because, like I said, the pandemic came and lives became in danger, which is important. But we allowed other things to continue to happen, and we did a few things, but we didn't do enough. Mm-hmm. If you do a rally one day and don't do nothing else, you didn't do anything. And we did that last year, and we didn't do anything. So we need to come together. We need to put some fire on this burning house, and we need to. I'm not going to say we need to let Martin Luther King's dream live again, because we can't. He's dead. But what we can do is take some of his conversations, apply them to today, and move ahead. Mm-hmm. So this is January. We should be doing things different in January than we did last January. I think 2020 should have taught us a lot. 2020 should have taught us that some of us need to change the circle that we're in, because if you're in a circle that's not moving, then you're not moving either. So some of us need to change our circle. Some of us need to widen our circle, because there's other people that need to be in your circle that are not. So we need to learn to reach out. I think I reached out because, like I said, Troy was he still is a friend of mine on Facebook, but now he's a friend of mine in person.
Definitely.
Because now I've met him, but so we need to expand our circles, and we need to expand our thinking, and we need to bring in our young people, because you know what? As well as we can teach them, they can teach us. So we have knowledge to share. If we do this and we share this, we will win. And we can take that burning house, we can let it burn someplace else, take the wood and use it for something else. But we need to move ahead, and we need to make some strides, and we need to make some points, because I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm tired. And I'm tired of being tired. And I'm tired of watching us do nothing. That drives me utterly crazy.
Right.
It really does. I will sit at home and plan something, which is why I should never be idle, because I'll plan something and plan for us to do it, because I am a doer. I don't like talking. Well, I'm on the radio. But I don't like talking about something so much. It gets on my nerves. And then I'll just go and do it, and I'll just leave everybody out that won't come with me. And I shouldn't do that. That's wrong with me. But it's something that I've gotten used to. Because I was raised that if you're going to take a fight up, be prepared to walk alone.
Exactly.
And boy, oh boy. But the problem of walking alone is you don't know how sometimes to scoop people up. The other people need to learn that they need to tap you on. Hey, I got you. You be like, oh, okay. Because you're so used to walking it alone. But so we need to step it up. We need to support some of our young people that are learning out there to be speakers. There's a young man in Killeen. He's leading a group. They're going to be on the radio next week. But we need to support him, because I listened to him talk, and I asked him what speeches was he listening to, because he was saying some things that I heard too long ago. Mm-hmm. And he's going back listening to some of the Black Panther speeches. Mm-hmm. He's listening to some of the Malcolm X speeches. He's listening to Martin Luther King speeches. How I know? Because I'm listening to him talk, and not listening to what he says. I'm listening to how he's saying it. Exactly. And how he's saying it, you rings the bell. You go, wait a minute, hold on. Wait. Where is he coming from? Well, he's studying.
How old are you?
I know,
Yeah, how old are you? What you been listening to? Because, hey, that's not coming from you. That's coming from somewhere else, but you're using it very well.
Because he does this little thing in the morning, Good Morning from the King. I can't listen to it on work days, because I have to be to work early. But on days we were off, I was listening to him. One morning, I'm listening to his whole thing about Good Morning from a King, and I'm listening to what he's saying. I was like, okay. So quickly, I didn't do his comments because it was personal. So I inboxed him. Who were you listening to? And he called me up. He goes, "Hey, Mom." I'm like, "Yes." He says, "I was listening." He said, "How'd you know?" Maybe because I kind of followed these people. Mm-hmm. I said, "But you keep saying things." I said, "Keep it up." He said, "What? Not many people listening. It's okay. Keep it up." He said, "But I got like 5 people listening." those 5 people will learn. You know, but I'm like, continue those positive things. I say, because it's cool, it's good, I liked it.
Right.
You know?
Sometimes it only takes one person. You can, like we said, we can look at that from, the Colin Kaepernick's part. It was one person. And then before you knew it was football, a lot of people on other football teams. And then it went from the NBA, LeBron James and those people, how they stood up. And then it WNBA and then soccer players and all. So once it's only take one person to get something started. But to make an effective change, it's got to be a group of people for them to take it seriously. So, but like you said, he's keep it up, because one person can turn 5 can turn into 10, and then 10 can turn into 20. You never know what speeches and those, the way he was articulating things from Martin Luther King or Malcolm X and all that can turn into. So this time next year, he may have 200 followers when he just started out with 5. So, if I could say the same thing, you just keep it going, because sometimes it only takes that one person to get something started.
And I didn't realize when I, inboxed him and let him know that I thought it was terrific. His first thing was he called me. He goes, "Ma." I'm like, "Yes," because, I knew that means something. Those sort of words people say to you, like, "Oh my God." But I'm like, "Yes." His name is Brian. I said, "Yes, Brian." He said, "You're the first person in your age group to say that. So I feel really good." Okay, I felt bad. I did. I felt bad. Now, I felt good about what he said, but I felt bad that I'm the first one. Of my age group to do this. I'm like, "Well, thank you." He says, "What's wrong?" It's okay. He says, "But I complimented you." I said, "I didn't say you didn't." I didn't say you didn't. I said, "But what my thought is that I shouldn't be the first one. I should have been like the second or third. You've been doing this for a long time. I'm only listening because there's no school, and I'm up." But I felt good that he said it to me, but I felt bad. I'm the first one. I'm like, "Well, sheesh, yeah, fix that."
Yeah, definitely, we definitely do, and realize we are the ones that the close to this generation that we need to be the ones to inspire them and give them the motivation to keep going, don't stop, only because things may not be looking the way it's looking now. Because I'm sure Malcolm X and Martin Luther King didn't start out with hundreds and thousands of people following them. I'm sure they started out on a small scale, maybe not 5 people, because the church ties for Martin Luther King and Malcolm X had his following of the Muslims and whatnot. So I'm sure they didn't start out that small, but I'm sure they didn't start out on a large scale as well. So, but there's this older generation, old demographics, that to teach them and inspire them to keep going no matter what the circumstances are, because you never know how it's going to turn out.
True.
Like I said, today it can be this, next week it could be something totally different.
And right now in Killeen, just right now, last weekend, we know that a man that's mentally challenged. I'll say it that way because since I work special needs, we say things correctly. We don't like the words that other people use. Not that we're confused. We just like using the correct words, so we're hoping to teach people. But the man was mentally challenged. And that doesn't mean he was special, just had mental issues. But we learned that a police officer shot and killed him. And we have mixed feelings. And I don't mean mixed feelings because, yes, it was right, yes, wrong. Our mixed feelings are due to our age group. We see one way and our youth is seeing another way. They're having a rally, protest, and I got asked to speak, and I'm going to, because I have more to bring to them that they need to be doing rather than what they think they need to be doing. So that is my job. And whoever else, they asked me to bring people with them. Really? For real? Seriously? I'm like, okay, yeah, like I can rally. But anyway, I owe that to them. We owe that to them to teach them the way to go. Because right now they're asking, what do we do next? So while they're saying, what do we do next? We need to be there feeding them. This is what you do next. After a rally protest, this is what you do next. Because right now they're asking. If we don't feed them, they'll do something wrong next.
Right. Which will wipe out the whole cause of the rally.
Right.
In other people's eyes.
Yes.
So we need to make sure that they do it the right way.
Yes, because if not, and it's our fault too. Because we'll be watching, saying once again, those kids.
Exactly.
And they're our kids. So anything you want to say before we close?
I would just like to say that those out here, if you have a cause, stand on it. Like I said earlier, it only takes one person. You can watch what's going on in the world today to understand that collectively, if you have something that you want to do, make sure that you stand strong on it, one. Two, make sure you understand that the power is in the numbers. And it's been proven. We're going to always have those hurdles. We're going to always have some issues in that burning building that may seem like there's unsurmountable. But as a group of people, we've always overcome the odds. We've always thrived in whatever situation that we were in. So don't get discouraged. Keep fighting that good fight, as John Lewis would say, and things will be okay. And I would say to the older generation that, hey, we have to step it up. We have to step our game up. And don't be so afraid to teach the young people what you know or the roots that we got away from. Because there's nothing wrong with what Big Mama taught us. There's nothing wrong with our uncles and aunts taught us. Because sometimes that's what they need. Because they need to find strength in words and encouragement to keep going on and doing what we need to do to get us out this burning building that we're in, that we've put ourselves in. Because today's generation is more about what it looks like in material things, opposed to what it needs to really actually be. And we need to get back to those grassroots of showing that we care and to educate them that it's not always about material things and it's not always about what it looks like. We have to have substance with all of that, and we're missing a lot of substance in today's world. Good.
So you know what that means, that you're going to see Troy Baker out there. Because he said it, so he has to get out there now.
Hey, where we going next? Where we going next?
See, he should never ask. See, he messed up already. He should never ask me that.
Well, that's because we're fighting the same fight, but we're going two different directions. And so, my mind this weekend is getting ready for class to teach and other stuff that I'm in. So, but I'm willing to fight the fight anywhere.
See, we celebrating because there's no school on Monday.
Yeah, but I got to prepare for school on Tuesday and Wednesday when my college class starts. So,
see, don't say Tuesday and Wednesday.
Hey,
we celebrating. We haven't worked on a Monday yet this year.
Yeah, you're right. We're not even worried about Monday or Tuesday. We're just going to celebrate today, Sunday, and Monday. We're going to celebrate those days and be thankful that we're here to see those days, and then we're going to worry about the rest of that later.
That's true.
Right.
Okay, so I want to thank everyone for listening to Community Connections this morning. I want to thank my guests for coming on the show. And
anytime.
You'll hear him again next month on a different topic. He'll be here.
Definitely.
He'll be here with another young man. And it's going to be interesting watching them together.
Uh-oh.
I don't think that'll be a one-day show. I think it's going to be a 2-day show.
Hey.
See, they don't know I don't know if they know each other, but I know both of them. Well, I know Troy better now.
Right.
And I know the other guy real well. And I don't know, y'all. I don't know. It's not a bad I don't know.
Oh, no.
It's a 2-week I don't know. It's that I feel that the show is going to be 2 Saturdays. Or 2 Sundays and not one. And if it is, it's okay. I've already planned for it because they're going to talk about a topic as just the men. And then 2 weeks later, after they get through, it's going to be the women talk about the same topic. Because
well, why come we can't all be here together, get 2 different perspectives?
Because the pandemic won't let me.
Oh, the pandemic won't let you?
Because you all will be sitting too close together.
Oh.
See, that's the only.
You need to hurry up and get over this.
If it wasn't the pandemic, yes, I'll have all 4 of you in here together.
Hey. We can all do 1 and 1.
And we could be wow.
Yes.
But no, the pandemic won't let me do that because everybody would be shoulder to shoulder. And we would. Yeah, I don't want to get in trouble like that. But it would be good also to hear the men and the women have their own
different perspectives.
Because my topic is civil rights, and civil rights for men and women have always been different since we got here. Now, before we got here, our civil rights struggle was quite different, and we had gods and goddesses that led us to them. But when we became here, our civil rights struggles changed. Mm-hmm. All the way changed, and they became different for men and women. So we're going to talk about that next month, and Troy will be back to talk about it.
Definitely. I will definitely be here.
And he has a sheet of paper. He's going to bring a book next time. Y'all
hey, I'm ready right now. We can do it. Because the struggle's always been the same, but been different at the same time for men and women.
And the game has changed.
The game has definitely changed.
The game changed only because of times. I said the game changed because now we have social media and we have cell phones and all that.
Definitely.
So that changed. Other than that, it's the same.
Oh, yeah.
But like I said, I want to thank you all for listening to Community Connections this morning. I hope you learned a lot. I hope that we started a conversation that needs to continue and not stop. But I want you to always remember, you cannot lead a positive life with a negative mind. We'll talk to you next Sunday. Bye.
Bye.